could have him back in the lineup as a designated hitter. Phillies also get a 4-1 victory over the Cincinnati Reds to help get the stank of the New York Mets off of them, and it feels good. Rob Thompson talked about a lot yesterday about how this team could bounce back, and they certainly were able to do that against the Reds. And one of the big reasons they were able to do that because Nick Castellanos is incredible against the NL Central, as we were finding out. And what he did yesterday against the Reds was no exception. 436-foot home run. Bryson Stott followed that with an upper deck home run to right. Alec Boehm was 3 for 4 last night. JT Realmuto had a couple of hits, all big nights from those guys. And Noah Syndergaard, Thor himself, a 7-inning performance for the Phillies. 89 pitches in that performance, allowing just 1 run and 3 hits. That is a guy that I didn't even expect the Phillies to get at the trade deadline when they made that acquisition. In terms of that good of a pitcher, I thought he would be around the quality start range more consistently than anything. But to get 7-inning performances from him, to get sub-90 performances from him, to get a hell of a lot more strikes than balls thrown, and to only have 1 run performance from him, pretty damn good. Love seeing that from the Phillies trade deadline acquisition that they needed to bring in here to bolster their lineup. Now, rotation. One thing I do want to say before we go any further about this Phillies team is that Rob Thompson did make an announcement last night. Ranger Suarez was supposed to get the start today in Game 2 of this series against the Reds. That's not happening. Suarez will now pitch on Wednesday. He'll get that start. Tonight, you're going to see Christopher Sanchez get another start for the Phillies this season. He is 2-2 with AAA Lehigh Valley this season with a 3.50 ERA, and the Phillies need the lefty to come up here, the 25-year-old lefty, and basically push everybody back for a day. Because Rob Thompson looked at what was going on with Aaron Nola, with Zach Wheeler, and said, why don't you guys take a minute? Why don't you guys take a minute? Excuse me. You guys just relax for a second. And we're going to bring up somebody from the minors to just make sure everyone can get that extra day of rest. So credit to Rob Thompson for that. Credit to the Phillies front office for making that decision. I'm happy that the Phillies won last night. Again, 4-1 victory. I am very happy that it does help. It does feel like a shower after that awful Mets series. And it feels like you can definitely get a little bit of that bad odor off of you. This was a game that I noticed last night with the Phillies where they had something to prove. That's what it felt like. And look, anytime you put up runs, you could say that. And I know 4 runs isn't anything worth bragging about, but it's better than what they had been doing. I know the previous game they put up a bunch of runs. That's great. 9 runs. That's fantastic. But in this particular game, we are facing that far inferior opponent like you are in the Reds. You want to go out there and take care of business. Nick Castellanos did that with his home run. Bryson Stott followed with the back-to-back jacks for the Phillies yesterday. So that's ultimately what you want to see, and that's what went down in that second inning. Noah Syndergaard took care of things on the mound as well. So it was a game that I felt like the Phillies from Jump Street were going to go out there and just handle their business. And yesterday was another example of the Phillies not doing the thing that they had done for so long, which is play down to their opponents. Where they're a better team than the Marlins, yet they continuously lost to the Marlins. They're a better team than the Reds. They're not playing down to the Reds. They're going to win this series against the Reds. I have a lot of confidence they're going to take 3 or 4 from the Reds in this series, even with Christopher Sanchez coming up from the minor leagues to throw against this lineup. I am confident that the Phillies are going to win this series 3-1. I want to be ballsy and say they're going to sweep, but I don't even think I want to go there because I don't want to put the jinx on them. I don't want to hex them. I don't want to be too optimistic. But all in all, I think the Phillies have put in the rearview mirror that argument of why do they play down to their opponents. And I think a big reason of that is Rob Thompson. I pointed out yesterday that after Game 2 of the series against the Mets, he came out and said, this team's going to the playoffs. Just relax. Things will fall into place as long as you relax, not press, not grab the bat too tight, not grip the ball too hard. If we just relax, we're playoff bound. Like, in no way, shape, or form is that a Jimmy Rollins, we're the team to beat type of statement from Rob Thompson. But I think a couple players in the locker room heard that. A couple players in the clubhouse heard that. And I'm sure Rob Thompson told them the same thing. Not that there was any overdramatic closed-door meeting, but just, guys, we are good enough to make the playoffs. Stay the course. We're going to be a playoff team. Padres were idle last night. Phillies and Padres are now tied for the second wild card spot. The Brewers also won. They played the Dodgers. They won last night, so pretty much everything remains the status quo when it comes to the Brewers in the wild card standings. So that's what we got. Before we get to the thing that really was rattling around in my brain last night, I do want to let you hear from Rob Thompson about how this team does right the ship and how even after they have an abysmal series against the Mets, they bounce right back and do exactly what they're supposed to do against an inferior opponent like the Reds.
Yeah, it feels great, but like I said before, these guys bounce back. They really do. Their memory isn't very long, and they just keep grinding away.
That's all it takes, man. That's all it takes. Slow grinding away. Keep it going.